Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we are taking a sensory deep dive into the iconic opening of an absolute literary masterpiece. We aren't just going to read the text, we are going to dissect it, visualize it, and actually feel the heat radiating off the pages as we explore this incredibly striking Arabic edition of Ray Bradbury's dystopian classic, Fahrenheit 451. So let's dive right in and see how a world is built, not with bricks, but with fire.
You know, before you even read a single sentence of the narrative, the physical artifact itself is already speaking to us. The Arabic translation published by Darul Saki has this intense, fiery aesthetic dominating the background. It is definitely not a subtle design. It is an absolute inferno of reds, oranges, and deep crimson shadows that are just completely engulfing an open book. And with that proud mention of the 2007 Pulitzer Prize at the top, cementing Bradbury's legacy, the mood is brilliantly set. It tells you immediately this is not a safe space. This is a world where knowledge, represented by those glowing white pages, is actively being consumed by flames.
And that sense of danger, it builds right from the title. Right beneath the bold numbers 451, there is this stark, incredibly chilling subtitle, the temperature at which book paper catches fire. Bradbury isn't making us wait around to figure out the mystery of the title. He's giving us a scientific, physical reality of the destruction before we even hit page 1. It acts almost like a warning label on a hazardous material. We're literally being handed the exact thermal metric for the death of a book, instantly establishing the central theme of systematic, calculated destruction.
Talk about the power of a first impression, right? We open the book and we are immediately hit with this profoundly jarring opening line. It was a pleasure to burn. In the Arabic text, it translates with this beautiful dark rhythm to, it was a source of pleasure to burn things. Think about how completely this inverts everything we expect. Since we were kids, we've been taught that firemen are heroes. They put out fires, they save lives. But in just a handful of words, Bradbury grabs those expectations and completely flips them upside down. We are instantly trapped in the mind of a protagonist who doesn't just start fires, but actually finds genuine, deep-seated joy in doing it.
The physical layout of the book actually mimics this exact shock. You have the calm, stark white of the inner title page, clean, organized, almost clinical in its total blankness. But turn the page and you plunge directly into the dense, chaotic, action-packed world of the first chapter, The Hearth and the Salamander. The stark white gives way to a dense block of Arabic text that is practically bursting off the page. The transition from silence to screaming sirens is immediate. The hearth, usually a symbol of a warm, safe home fire, is paired with the salamander, a mythical creature believed to live inside fire. It's like stepping out of a calm white void directly into a roaring furnace.
So let's break down the psychology happening in that dense text. We encounter what we can basically call the paradox of destruction. Our protagonist, Guy Montag, isn't just some drone following orders blindly. As the text describes, it was very pleasant for him to see things decay, to watch things turn black and fundamentally change their state. This isn't just about censorship, it's a really dark exploration of a twisted human impulse. He finds an artistic, almost transcendent joy in watching the world morph under extreme heat. And understanding this is absolutely crucial, because it shows just how deeply brainwashed he is by his society. For him, destroying knowledge isn't a chore, it is an aesthetic experience.
How does the author make this destruction feel so vivid? Well, he doesn't just say Montag held a hose. He describes the brass nozzle clutched in his fists. And then the language takes this wild shift into something animalistic and terrifying. The hose is described as a massive python. And what is this mechanical beast spitting? Definitely not water. It's spitting venomous kerosene all over the world. The crucial takeaway here is the personification of the technology. The tools of the state are alive. They're reptilian and they are toxic. By describing the fuel as actual venom, the text is implying that they aren't just burning books, they are literally poisoning society. It's just a brilliant, brilliant use of sensory metaphor.
And the artistry of this destruction doesn't stop there. Right in the middle of the text, this incredible metaphor emerges where the protagonist is likened to a brilliant conductor. His hands, steering this python-like hose, are described like the hands of a maestro, leading a symphony of flames. He is orchestrating the burning of the rotting charcoal ruins of history. What you should really take away from this is how a dystopian regime actually survives. They do it by making their enforcers feel powerful and important. Montag feels like an artist. He doesn't see himself as a tyrant destroying humanity's legacy. He sees himself as a conductor, creating this majestic, fiery masterpiece out of old, useless paper. This fiery symphony is painted with a highly specific, intense color palette too. The fire is so consuming that it reflects in Montague's very being. The text describes his eyes glowing orange, illuminated from within beneath his symbolic helmet numbered 451. But the fire doesn't just consume the target house, it consumes the entire environment. The evening sky itself is painted in the colors of the inferno, red, yellow, and black. It's just a total sensory overload. Bradbury is making absolutely sure that we don't just read about a fire, we see the glow, we feel the heat, and we watch the entire world become completely saturated with the violent colors of destruction.
But here is the truly chilling part. After this epic, almost mythical description of the flames, the text drops down to something terribly mundane. It's a joke among the firemen about roasting a marshmallow in the furnace of the burning house. A marshmallow. But notice the language right next to that joke. They want to do this while the books, flopping like pigeon wings, literally die on the porch. This casual cruelty is deeply, deeply unsettling. It highlights a society that is completely desensitized to violence and the erasure of thought. I mean, they are murdering history, and they're treating it like a cozy little campfire. Which brings us to a massive question, and it's one I really want you to sit with today. We felt the heat of the opening lines. We've witnessed the terrifying joy of the protagonist. But ultimately, Fahrenheit 451 is asking us this. If a society finds profound pleasure in burning its own history, what remains of its humanity? The death of the books in this opening chapter isn't just about lost stories. It's about the loss of empathy, the loss of memory, and really, the loss of our very souls. It's a dark, captivating reality that immediately hooks us and leaves us desperate to read further, just to see if the ashes can ever be rebuilt. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you next time.